Alright, everybody, welcome back to another episode or another reading of the John Johson Chronicles. This time we will be going through chapters 12 to 16. It's going to be a little longer actually because though it says 12 to 16, you'll see soon enough that there's actually more than that. We got a little weird with the chapter numbering. So let's just jump right into it. Chapter 12 The Search Shall Continue. Discouraged by the previous events, JJ didn't know what to do. He slowly meandered down the sidewalk, watching the houses move by. Wait, what? That's right. JJ suddenly noticed that the houses around him were moving on their own, thanks to ingenious sponge taco technology. Could JJ catch a ride on one of these majestic beasts? He had to try. JJ whipped out his bejeweled lasso and tossed it over one of the houses. He pulled himself up and landed on top of the house. "Whoa, boy," he said, trying to hold on as the house tried to throw him off. Eventually, JJ gained control of the great beast and calmed it down to the point where it was under JJ's control. Riding his trusty, crusty steed, nicknamed Lil JJ, JJ headed to the Wild Wild West in search for bath salts. Well, sucks for JJ, because the Wild Wild West was down for maintenance on Wednesdays, so he couldn't get in. JJ decided that the only way to infiltrate the Wild Wild West would be to dress up as a janitor and don little JJ in the clothing of a horse, of course. So, JJ spent the entirety of Wednesday knitting a janitor's outfit and a house-sized horse outfit, made solely out of 2 paper clips, a hairdryer, and his own eyelashes. The janitor suit was a simple, streamlined type, jet blue in color. It was made of JJ's naturally blue back hair. JJ rode Lil JJ up to the front gates of the Wild Wild West. The gates were about this tall, made of empty, oval, unlabeled cans, and smelt strongly of rotten spam. JJ asked the front gatesman who the heck he thought he was. "I reckon my name is Kurt," said the man, after releasing the most redneck laugh ever from his vocal cords. Immediately, the Guinness Book of World Records award team showed up and took a picture of Kurt for World's Best Redneck Laugh. JJ used this once-in-a-lifetime event as a distraction and snuck sneakily on Lil JJ through the gates to the oh-so-wild Wild Wild West. Chapter 13 The Duel to Rule Them All. JJ parked Lil JJ at the closest horse stable and dismounted, looking like a complete badarse. He looked so badarse, in fact, that it caught the attention of the Wild Wild West's 4-year crowned badarse, Carl Pilkington. A duel was instantly declared. Carl took his journal out and wrote something along the lines of, okay, let me try this. "This little fella just walked into the Wild Wild West looking all badarse. I'm thinking, no, that ain't happening when I'm here. It's just bollocks. Why can't people just be, I don't know, less stupid?" JJ used this opportunity to shoot his flintlock pistol at Carl in an attempt to win the duel. However, the bullet missed and ricocheted from building to building until it rocketed towards the sky, hitting a vulture. This vulture, crippled in pain, flew 2 miles from the scene before it died. It fell from the sky and landed in a windmill. The velocity of this impact sent the blades of the windmill flying off its supports, bouncing over the landscape while spinning as rapidly as a jet turbine. Within 3 minutes, the blades reached the Wild Wild West and blasted through Lil JJ, hitting Carl head-on. "No!" cried JJ as he watched Lil JJ burst into flames and implode. The duel was resolved, but JJ lost his closest friend in the past 5 minutes. JJ literally went apeshite for the next 15 minutes, beating the heck out of anyone who stepped within a 100-foot radius of the Wild Wild snack stand. After the 15 minutes were up, JJ calmed down, for he realized that his stomping around, obliterating people, had caused a small tectonic shift. This shift had opened up a crack about the size of a door in the ground right next to JJ. A sense of curiosity flooded JJ's veins, and he peered down inside of the hole. Next thing he knew, JJ was plummeting into the hole. As he looked above, Carl's smirking face disappeared into the distance. Chapter 14. The Real MLG Underground. Hats off to anybody who knows of the MLG reference, the montage parody disaster of 2015. JJ, accepting that his death was approaching as fast as the ground was, closed his eyes and smiled. Next thing he knew, he felt weightless. Some type of tractor beam had caught him right before he hit the ground. He opened up his eyes and was met with something he never expected. A golden, extravagant city lost to history. He had found Atlantis. Perhaps they have some bath salts here, JJ intimately pondered, stroking his freshly trimmed beard. The tractor beam pulled him directly into what appeared to be some sort of fountain. Abruptly, a man clad in the finest golden silk robes approached JJ and yelled, "Hey, you! Get out of that fountain! Is this a prank or something? I'm gonna call the police!" JJ slowly stepped out of the fountain with his hands in the air. Not familiar with the Atlantean customs, sticking your arms in the air was the worst insult imaginable to them, equivalent to saying, "You're a mother-trucking, butt-clenching, coochie-swaggling ne'er-do-well who tickles his own mother's scalp." Extremely offended, the Atlantean took out what looked like a more futuristic version of an iPhone, clicked several buttons, and before JJ knew it, he had the official Atlantean Badmouther Brigade chasing him through the gold, diamond-encrusted streets of Atlantis. The brigade was mercilessly tossing soap at JJ to get it into his mouth. They were also shouting, "You need to have your mouth washed out, you bad, bad boy!" This was bad. Really bad. The only thing in the world JJ was more allergic to than waffle mix was soap, which is why he hadn't bathed since he left his mother's womb. Luckily, his bodily stench was so bad that once the nostrils of the brigade came close enough to him, they all passed out at the same time. With their nostrils unconscious, the brigade had no choice but to retreat. "Next time we see you, you're getting a bubble bath," one of the soldiers asserted as he fled. JJ was finally out of harm's way. So, he thought it would be a good idea to go shopping in the Atlantean strip mall for bath salts. He looked and looked and looked, and all he could find on sale were things like diamonds, rubies, the Holy Grail, and trail mix. So much trail mix. JJ grew hungry, so he bought all the trail mix he could carry. He was a billionaire, remember, so he could easily afford it. JJ then searched for some place to eat. He found a park that had trees with $47 bills for leaves. He sat under this tree and spent the next 12 hours eating all of the trail mix he had. The sheer amounts of protein JJ was ingesting put his muscles into a state of accelerated growth. JJ grew an 11-pack, along with the sexiest beach bod a man could ever want. JJ saw a poster nailed to some Atlantean's back that advertised a beach lifters competition. The winner got all the bath salts this side of Kentucky. His goal in mind, JJ signed up and was ready to show off his hot bod. Okay, as I said in the beginning, the chapters get weird, and here we go with that. Chapter 14.75, JJ's Mummy. I suppose it's about time to discuss the life and times of JJ's mother's family. Their surname had been, for generations, Bolafar. The name was carried proudly until Matilda Bolafar was birthed in about 1939. Born the only child of the last line of her family, she doomed the death of her surname. Her father, Adolfo, was furious and attempted to first murder, then disown Matilda. Of course, this sent Adolfo to jail for 5.6 years of hard time on 47 charges of attempted juvenile manslaughter. I'm sure YouTube will love that. As he rotted away in the slammer, Adolfo pondered the nobility of his fine surname, as he had many times before. This brings us back to a warm summer day mid-August. The time period roughly spans from about 1300 BC to 1300 AD. The location is where Germany would be in the future, but is then called Dummkopfland. All throughout Dummkopfland, the legends of a mythical man had spread for generations. I really don't know why those dashed lines were there, but I kept them in to maintain the quality of the time capsule that this is. Then, on the warm summer day of aforementioned, myth merged with reality. A man, stereotypically, named Olaf, king of the Salisbury Vikings, journeyed to the Doomkampf land, searching for a last name. Like his future reincarnation, Jeff, he would stop at nothing to secure himself only the finest surname. Olaf had a bad habit. He called it being a little jittery. But to the common man, it was none other than an acute case of Parkinson's disease. This affliction caused Olaf to sporadically hurl large boulders in any which direction, pummeling helpless bystanders. At one point during his sea-bound journey to Doomkampf land, Olaf's condition caused him to sink his ship not once, but 3 times. 3 times. He left from Salisbury's steakhouse with 13 men, and finished his journey with 1, including himself. Adolfo is violently yanked out of his daydream, only to witness the biggest prison outbreak since my 16th birthday party. Adolfo sprung into action, gnawing through the bars of his cell and joining the nearby fisticuffs between guards and inmates. Adolfo flailed his fist rapidly around in circular motions, taking off the arms and legs of multiple guards. He also hit some inmates. After roughly 10 minutes to 3 hours, Adolfo had decimated all but a single other inmate. Her name was Matilda, and she was in jail for committing arson after her husband Adolfo was sent to jail. Worked that one out. But I seem to be digressing quite a lot. Let's get back to the task at hand. The explanation of why the heck this family got the surname of Bullthorpe. Actually, never mind. I don't feel like explaining it anymore. I've got a beach bod competition to narrate. Oh boy. Chapter 14.875, A Look at Our Narrator. Bonus extra credit to anybody who can work out what that decimal is or that mixed number is. Oh, well, I'm simply flattered you'd all like to know about me. The esteemed gentleman telling this tale. My name, to you, is God. However, to the people of my realm, I am simply known as Morgan Freeman. An aside real quick, yes, that's who the narrator is supposed to be. I apologize for not being Morgan Freeman, but as you might expect, we're probably never going to get him to narrate this, so let's just continue. Aside end. Yes, that's right. I appear in the next chapter of a story I'm narrating. Deal with it. You all know I am quite awesome. You see, I was employed by a certain individual of sorts to narrate this tale. After my unplanned termination from the show Through the Wormhole with Morgan Freeman. The show has since been renamed to Through the Wormhole with XX Morgan Freeman XX. You're welcome for being here. Chapter 15, Beach Bummer. Morgan Freeman or not, JJ had to win. There was zero of an option. He threw down the gauntlet and approached the sign in post. Sign in post. I don't know why we wrote it like that. Hello, sir. How are you? JJ cut off the desk man's greeting with a pimp slap to the face. You know what I'm here for, JJ said coldly. Yes, sir, JJ, sire. The man opened up a cheap arse parking pole that anyone with half a brain could have vaulted over. See, JJ couldn't because he left his pole vault back in the Springfield Mega Walmart rubble. JJ stubbed his toe on the gauntlet he had thrown down and fell to the ground, landing as prone as possible. He cursed out loud for a few minutes, attracting quite the crowd. Once satisfied, he army crawled for 57 minutes, going from the gate entrance to where the contestants were gathering, a mere 20 feet away. Why was he army crawling? Because he's a bad arse. End of story. Not really. JJ joined all of the other contestants in the arena and prepped his extremely muscled body for lifting the 4,000-pound weight. JJ's enormous strength was so enormous, JJ not only picked up the weight, he picked up the entire stage and chucked it out of the nearest window. Since JJ was the only contestant left, he gained the title JJ Libre and moved on to the final round. JJ vs. Morgan MLG Man Freeman. Chapter 16. Now we are in Rome. MLG Man was intimidating as F, and JJ Libre was beginning to work up a sweat. The thing was that JJ Libre was so buff, the surface area of his body was astronomically high. JJ Libre and MLG Man were warped through the space-time continuum and ended up in the Roman Colosseum. All of J.J. Libre's unnecessary bodily surface area was producing sweat, and the whole Coliseum was flooding with J.J. Libre juice. It was during this conundrum that the young Billy Mays was inspired to sell worthless shite on TV. He took his empty sippy cup and scooped up some of the J.J. Libre juice, drowning him and the rest of the audience. Mays described it as a succulent taste like no other, truly nectar of the gods, ichor on earth. Within seconds, Billy Mays sold out his entire supply of what he personally called OxyClean to all the people in the Coliseum. All of JJ's sweat in the gullets of the thirsty Coliseum patrons. It was now time for the ultimate showdown. JJ, dramatic shot of JJ. MLG Man, dramatic shot of heavenly light. With the sound of a large gong, the battle commenced. Morgan Freeman opened his mouth and spoke. His pristine, omniscient voice echoed through the fabric of space-time itself. The sound waves reverberated and caused an opening to the fourth dimension to appear, of which the almighty serpents of the fourth dimension slithered out. JJ easily fought off these creatures with a flick of his pinky toe and shouted at his foe, "MLG Man, you wanker! Show me what you're made of!" Morgan's brow twitched, his self-esteem quivered at JJ's taunt. Morgan spoke again. This time, all he said was, "Shrink." JJ felt something like a funnel cake slamming down over his head, except it was no ordinary funnel cake. It was a, this is my hometown, we are going to blank that out, rotary fair funnel cake. You know, the kind that makes you have the shites and maybe sometimes shrink. For JJ, he had both. As he shrunk down to the size of an atom, he excreted every last bit of matter that was lost in his downsizing. JJ was not fazed, however. Warping in and out of existence, JJ cloned himself again and again until he was back to normal size. It took about 7 hours. He again shouted at Morgan, "You wanker! I thought I said to step it up." Morgan, fed up, was done with these games. He needed to go act in a new movie. MLG Man looked JJ directly in the eye. His gaze reached into JJ's very soul. JJ felt burning hot and began screaming like mad. As he looked at his body, he saw it losing muscle mass, returning to its pre-trail mix size. Someone in the audience chucked a large piece of charcoal at the Coliseum ground, whilst yelling, "Yeehaw, barbecuer!" JJ was clunked directly in the chest, and it KO'd him. Morgan Freeman had won. The air grew heavy, and Morgan claimed the tacky plastic trophy that said, "I'm a winner." Since the final competition took place in Rome, the bath salts prize was withdrawn. He then sent JJ back into the future by merely saying, "Go now, young child." Alright, everybody. And with that, we will wrap it up. Thank you for listening again. If this was your first time, I do ask, or rather suggest, you go check out the other parts. I'm building up a playlist. And please do consider giving me a like, a subscription, maybe commenting if you're enjoying this series. It'll help my channel out, grow a little bit more, and expose this disaster of a story to more people. But yeah, anyway, there will be more, of course, as per usual. There will be many more parts, so stay tuned. Thank you again.